The river that eats people. Nestled in the heart of the rolling hills of Zuberi stood a quaint village, small but vibrant with life. Yet despite its beauty, the village lived under a shadow, a dark legend that had been passed down through generations. At the center of this tale was the Mbala River, its waters calm by day but ominous in its depths. Every villager knew the unspoken rule. Every year, without fail, the river demanded a life. To disobey this grim ritual was to invite chaos upon the entire village. No one dared challenge it, for the curse was absolute. Resistance would not just bring ruin, it would bring annihilation. The origins of the curse were murky, lost to time and whispers. Some said it began centuries ago, when a greedy king polluted the river and angered its spirit. Others claimed a forgotten ancestor made a pact with the river for prosperity, but failed to honor the terms. Whatever the truth, the villagers paid the price. Each year, when the rainy season ended, the river chose its victim. Sometimes it was an elder, sometimes a child. Always the river took. One year, the villagers could bear it no longer. The river had taken a child, a bright-eyed boy named Cato, whose laughter had once filled the village with joy. His parents' wails of grief reverberated through the air long after his disappearance. It was the final straw. A group of villagers, led by the elderly shaman Ada, decided to confront the curse. They refused to let another soul be taken. Ada was a woman of deep wisdom and fierce resolve. Her skin was weathered by the sun, her hair gray as ash, but her eyes burned with determination. She claimed to know rituals that could appease the river spirit without a human sacrifice. The villagers clung to her words like a lifeline. "If we do nothing," she warned, "we will all eventually drown in this river's hunger. But if we face it, we may yet survive." With her guidance, they prepared for the ritual. Offerings were gathered, the finest yams harvested that season, a pure white goat, and a calabash of palm wine. Each item was chosen carefully, symbolizing abundance, purity, and peace. A large drum was carried to the riverbank, its deep echoes said to reach the spirit world. As the preparations continued, whispers of fear and hope intertwined. Could they truly end the curse? Or were they marching to their doom? On the night of the ritual, the moon hung full and heavy in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the Mbala River. Mist clung to the water's surface like a shroud. The villagers, dressed in white, gathered at the bank, their faces solemn. Ada stood at the center, her staff in hand, muttering incantations in a tongue older than the village itself. The drumbeats began, slow and steady, resonating through the cool night air. The villagers' voices rose in unison, chanting prayers as their offerings were placed by the river's edge. For a brief moment, it seemed to work. The river's surface was still, almost serene. But then, the air grew heavy. The drum beats faltered as the water began to ripple unnaturally. The ripples turned to waves, and the waves to violent churning. The once clear water darkened, turning black as tar. It bubbled and frothed, emitting an acrid smell that burned the villagers' throats. Then came the voice. Deep and thunderous, it erupted from the depths of the river. "You fools!" it roared, shaking the very ground beneath them. "I do not take because I want, I take because you owe." The villagers froze in terror as the river's surface shifted. From its depths rose a massive, glowing face, its features otherworldly and grotesque. Its eyes, wide and unblinking, burned with a fiery light that pierced the souls of all who looked upon it. The spirit's voice boomed again, each word heavy with malice. "For your defiance, I will take more than lives. I will take your souls." Panic erupted. Some villagers fell to their knees, begging for mercy. Others tried to flee, but the River surged forward, impossibly fast. Its dark waters rose like a tidal wave, crashing onto the bank and swallowing everything in its path. The villagers screamed as the current pulled them under, their white clothes vanishing into the inky depths. Ada, standing firm, raised her staff and shouted a final incantation, but her voice was drowned out by the river's roar. One by one, the villagers disappeared. Their cries echoed briefly before being silenced by the relentless waters. By the time dawn broke, the Mbala River was calm once more. Its surface glistened in the morning light, as if the horrors of the night had never occurred. But the village was silent. Houses stood empty, and the fields lay untended. Only the whispers of the river remained, carried by the wind. Resist me, and I grow stronger. The curse endured. Travelers who passed through the area spoke of the eerie silence, of how the once thriving village had vanished overnight. Some claimed to hear faint drumming by the river at night, accompanied by distant, mournful chants. Others swore they saw ghostly figures in white, standing at the riverbank, waiting. The Mbala River continued to claim its due, its hunger insatiable. And so the legend lived on, a warning to those who dared to defy forces they could not understand. Some curses the villagers had learned too late should never be challenged. But the story of the Mbala River did not end there. Generations later, a wandering scholar named Kwesi stumbled upon the forsaken village. He had spent years chasing stories of curses and ancient spirits, determined to unravel the truth behind such legends. The Mbala River's tale intrigued him more than most. Why did it hunger? And what could have angered its spirit so deeply that it demanded an eternal death? Kwesi camped near the river, careful to respect its boundaries. By day, he explored the ruins of the village, piecing together fragments of its history. By night, he listened. The river spoke in whispers, faint and disjointed, as though the spirit within was restless. "You owe, it murmured, the words blending with the rustling of leaves and the croak of frogs. One moonless night, Kwesi decided to perform his own ritual. He had no intention of challenging the river, only of communicating with it. He offered a bundle of kola nuts and poured a libation of palm wine into the dark waters. As he chanted, the river's surface began to ripple. This time, there was no face, no thunderous voice. Instead, a figure emerged, a spectral woman, her form shimmering like the reflection of moonlight on water. "Why do you disturb me, mortal?" she asked, her voice soft but heavy with sorrow. Kwesi bowed low. "Great Spirit, I seek to understand. Why does the river claim lives? What debt must be repaid?" The spirit's gaze turned distant. "The debt was never mine. It was placed upon me by men who sought power but gave none in return. They desecrated my waters, spilled blood upon my banks, and left me burdened with their sins. Now I take because I must. The balance must be restored." Kwesi's heart ached at her words. "Can the balance ever be restored?" he asked. The spirit's form began to fade. "Perhaps. But it will require more than offerings. It will require sacrifice and understanding." Before Kwesi could ask more, she vanished, leaving the river silent once again. He stayed by the Mbala River for many moons, recording its whispers and piecing together its truths. The legend of the river grew, shaped not only by fear, but by the hope that one day its curse could be lifted.